Okay, everyone, welcome back. Welcome back, Christopher.
Hello. Hello.
So, first and foremost, we'll apologize for the lateness of the show last week and the fact that it wasn't a new episode. If you listened to the episode, my week got all messed up. Family vacation to Toronto last weekend to watch the Red Sox play the Blue Jays. Not last weekend, but last week. And, I knew I wasn't going to be around to record a new episode, but for whatever reason, I just, didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Until, I don't know, when did I text you, Saturday?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I was like, so I'm not going to be home until, later in the day on Thursday, so
yeah.
That's not going to work. So I had an archive episode all lined up and stuff, and had it ready to go, and so we were supposed to fly Air Canada. We were supposed to fly out at 6:15 a.m. Boston time on Monday. We checked in for our flight at, around noon on Sunday, day before, a little less than 24 hours before the flight. And then 7:30 p.m. Sunday evening, I get a text message from Air Canada that says, hey, flight's canceled. Not delayed. Your flight is canceled. So this is at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday. The flight is supposed to leave at 6:15 a.m. on Monday.
Ugh.
So if you're doing the math there, that's 10 and a half, 11 hours or so.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't doing the math. I don't do that anymore.
Well, less than 12 hours before the flight was supposed to take off,
Right.
They just canceled it.
Yeah.
Citing the norm. Right now, we didn't have enough, there wasn't crew available. But my whole thing in my head is why did you allow people to check in for the flight if you didn't have a crew secured to run the flight?
Yeah. Yeah, you think, well, who knows? Maybe, Jesus, anything could have happened, right? They could have, I don't know. But yeah, good question.
No, you're not. And I'm pretty understanding in the world we live in the post-COVID world that we live in, that there's not nearly enough hands that there used to be. Things will change, last minute. But, I feel like we're far enough into this world now that, you should be able to prepare a little bit for these things. If you don't have a crew, and again, maybe there was a crew secured, and then they I don't know. But,
Right.
allowing people to check in for the flight and then canceling it less than, I guess that's better than canceling it when we're all at the airport, which happened to Mel and I when we were going to Chicago last September. But so now I'm scrambling. I'm we're supposed to be on a flight in 10 hours. They canceled our way to get there. I'm what are we supposed to do? So try to get on the app, can't get any information on the app. Try to get on the website, can't get anything on the website. Everything is just we apologize for the inconvenience. The one thing I could find was apologize for the inconvenience. We are doing our best to reschedule you on the next available flight. So Mel just says, why don't we just drive? And at first I was I don't know, because Toronto's an 8.5 hour drive. It's not the longest drive in the world, but 8.5 hours is a substantial drive when you're not expecting to take it.
Do you for Toronto, do you come back into the U.S. somewhere around Buffalo or something?
Yes. Okay. Niagara, right around Niagara.
That is a excruciatingly boring drive.
That's the thing, is it's not an exciting drive either way. There's one section through upstate New York that is really pretty, but otherwise you're on Route 90, literally to the Canadian border.
Yep. We did the drive, actually, to Toronto at one point.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's hell. Yeah.
Sucks. So I'm I don't know, let's see what they do. So I got on the thing, and there was a flight leaving at 8:15, and all that was available on it was business class seats. But
what
of
is
course
business class? I haven't flown in a while, obviously.
Oh, they take really good care of you in business class. There's no doubt there, but they charge you an exorbitant amount of money to do it.
So is it first class 1.5 or something?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Plenty of room, usually just you in the row. They bring you hot food, they bring you hot towels. They take care of the people that pay the money. But again, it's an exorbitant amount of money. You're talking more than double what the ticket prices for like a standard. We had the upgraded cabin, so we didn't have the standard. We had like the middle ticket. Because in my older age, my long ass legs don't fit in those regular seats, and if I can spend $50 or whatever to get a little more room, I'm going to actually spend that money. So we have like the even more space seats, which are perfectly fine. I don't need business class or anything like that. I don't really. It's and especially in a flight that's only not even 2 hours. The flight to Toronto is like an hour and 40 minutes.
If I was going to like California, Australia, anything
different
over
story.
4 hours,
right? But then you're spending like $2,000 more for that stuff. It's all based on
right, because it's leg space by mile.
Right, seriously, it really is. So we see that there's some seats there. So I'm like, well, let me see if I can get somebody on the phone. And whenever you call Air Canada, you would get the same message. Actually, I'm curious.
Please stop calling. We're doing the best we can.
No, not even please stop calling. I'm curious now that I get you on the phone. You watch. I'll call with you on the phone.
Yeah.
And they'll answer.
I would be amazed if a company actually answered the phone these days.
Thank you for calling Air Canada. Merci d'avoir appelé Air Canada. Or English.
Oh, man, come on. Now you can actually get through.
Well, it's because you're not stuck there anymore.
I know, right? Anyway, so I try to call, and it comes up with a message. We apologize. Due to the overwhelming call volume, we are unable to receive your call or place you on hold at this time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of angry people.
Please visit our website for any additional stuff.
Help.
Yeah, and you couldn't even get on the website. You could get on the website, but like you would try to open your booking, and then it would crash, and like. So
man.
I'm like, we couldn't even try to scam our way into these seats anyway, because we can't even get somebody on the phone to talk to. So, needless to say, Mel's like, let's just drive. She's like, let's just we'll leave first thing in the morning and we'll drive because we were going to the Red Sox games. The Red Sox are playing the Blue Jays. We had the hotel room in the stadium. So that like the hotel room overlooked the stadium, so you didn't have to So they then reschedule us for a flight at 8:30 at night on Monday. Our flight was supposed to leave at 6:15 a.m. and the flight was scheduled to leave then at 8:30 p.m.
Wait, you can't waste 14 hours in Toronto?
Well, no, we wouldn't even have gotten to Toronto yet. That was the thing. We wouldn't even have left Boston until 8:30 at night.
No, that's. Wait. Is this going there or coming back?
This is going there. No, this is going there.
Oh, shit, going there. I thought this was coming back.
No. This was going there. We haven't even left yet.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, I'm way ahead in this story.
Yep.
Let me rewind my brain. Okay.
So we're now we're gonna lose. We're only going for 3 days. We're going to lose the entire first day. We're gonna miss the baseball game. We're still paying for the full day of the room, and the room was more expensive because it was the stadium view. So I'm like, okay, so basically, like, Air Canada's like, I don't care. They're like, well, we'll put you on this flight. But then the thing was, I couldn't even then cancel us off of that flight because I couldn't talk to anybody, and we had already checked in, so it just rolled our check-in over. So I couldn't even cancel it.
Like
so I sent emails.
Your check-in automatically goes to the changed time?
It did.
That shouldn't. You should have to check in again. Mm-hmm. You should get a flurry of emails that say check into your new time.
No, I got a flurry of emails about it being rescheduled, man. But nothing that was like... and so I sent emails to every email address I could find. It was... Yeah. It is. We drove. We got there by like 2:30 in the afternoon. We left at like 5. It wasn't... All things considered, it went well. And we had a really good time, and I love Toronto. We got to see Vishnu. We hung out with Vishnu for a couple of days, which was rad. And love Toronto. I love going to Canada. It all ended up being good. Travis had a really good time.
That's good.
We were able to kind of relax a little bit, and it was awesome. We weren't able to cancel our flight home either because you couldn't get in touch with anybody, but we never checked in for that, so... Hopefully, with the amount of emails that we sent, they'll refund my money. But the thing is, it's like, how long are we going to have to wait for them to refund the money? And how much of a battle is it going to be?
Yeah. In this day and age, I am surprised it takes companies as long as it claims it takes them to refund stuff. Like, I had bought tickets for a show and couldn't go. And Ticketmaster's like, we'll refund that money in like 90 days. It's like, what? It's computers. Fucking do it
Well, I mean,
tomorrow.
a lot of things, you're lucky they're even refunding it because a lot of the Ticketmaster stuff is like, hey, once you buy those tickets, you're locked in, dude.
Yeah, but I think they had to. I think they had to accept a whole lot of changes after
For sure.
after COVID
For sure.
started, which was lucky
sure.
because, the show I had bought tickets for was like it was canceled twice, and then it was like it was. I knew where the place was, but it was small and it was sold out, and masks had just been, you had to wear them again, and I'm like, I just can't.
Nope,
Can't.
that's
Bunch of sweaty people flinging their fluids everywhere. No.
Yeah, I know, man. Every show that I've gone to, I've been like as far into the back as I can go, and because I've gone to a lot of shows, but like I'm not about being in the crowd. I'm about being as far away as possible, or give me a seat that I can sit in, so that way I can kind of like quarter myself off.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's why the show was so late last week, because I hadn't posted it yet, and then all of a sudden went into a flurry of how the hell are we going to get to our vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when we drove home, which ended up being closer to 11 hours because last Friday was Canada Day. So everyone was trying to get out of Toronto, and it took us way longer to get home.
Right.
But it was fine. Again, boring drive, whatever. We had a good time, so I didn't get home until really late. Or not really late, but like we left Toronto, I think, at like 10:30, 11 in the morning. We didn't get in the house until like 9:30 at night. So, But I hope you guys enjoyed the Eric Pennycoff interview that I reposted from last week. His new film, The Leech, has been playing on a number of festivals. It played Chattanooga with The Woodsman last week. Got amazing reviews, great feedback. So it was cool to post him up. He'll be on the show again soon. They made the announcement too that The Leech has actually already been picked up by Arrow. So that's awesome.
Nice.
And the feedback we got for The Woodsman was excellent. We got great feedback from people. A lot of great reviews for The Woodsman. Your next opportunity to see The Woodsman will be at the Bridgeport Film Festival later on this month in July. So if you're on the East Coast or in the New England area and want to take a day trip down to the Bridgeport Film Festival to see our new horror short, The Woodsman, that's where it's going to be playing. I don't know the exact day of the schedule, the day of the screening, because they have not posted the schedule yet. But as soon as they do, I will let you guys know.
Nice.
This week on the show, though, more Patreon picks. Patreon picks. Our good buddy Shane, who's been with the show since near the beginning. I mean, he's been around forever, and he still supports the show.
Yeah.
And he just picks movies, I think, sometimes that just to get under our skin.
It's possible.
It is possible. So the first feature this week is the Spike Lee 2000 was it 2000, I think?
It was real early in the new millennium. Yes.
Yeah, so I think it was 2000 or 2001. Bamboozled, starring Tommy Davidson, basically the cast of In Living Color.
Saving Glover.
Yep. Jada Pinkett Smith, directed by Spike Lee. We will talk about it momentarily. What's the other movie we're doing, Chris?
Butterfly Kisses.
Which is a found footage film, which I actually watched not that long ago.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I had watched this not that long ago. It's an interesting take on the found footage documentary within a documentary subgenre, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Whether it works or not, we'll get into that in the review. But those are the two flicks for this week.
I would like to say about these, I really like having them in a list where I know everybody's name because I looked up Butterfly Kisses on Just Watch to see where I should just watch it. And there were two versions. And considering Bamboozled was one of the picks from Shane, I'm like, all right, is it the drama about the junkies? It's probably the found footage one, and I'm terrible with Facebook Messenger, but I'm like, all right, so it's 11:30 at night or whatever. Bill's asleep, or he'll just yell at me for texting him. So I reached out to Shane and I'm like, hey, which one? And within a minute, literally a minute, he wrote back, and he didn't even know there was a drama.
I didn't either.
I sent him the link to it. I wrote to him, was Butterfly Kisses but one of your Patreon picks. If so, which one? The supernatural found footage one or the drama? And he wrote the found footage one. I didn't even know there was another one, and I sent a link to it. He's like, you know what? I say do both of them. The drama can't be worse than some of the toss you've endured. I want to say thank you to Shane for getting back to me like immediately, because like I was sitting down to watch it on Sunday night. So that was helpful.
Yeah, Shane's the man. He's been with us literally, like, I think since the very beginning.
Yeah. And I had actually seen this before as well, which is good.
Nice. Well, we're going to start with Bamboozled.
Okay.
Spike Lee joint, 2000. Here's a trailer.
I want a show that will make headlines. The Huxtables, Cosby, a genius, revolutionary. But we can't go down that road again.
The network does not want to see Negroes on television unless they are buffoons.
Have you ever thought about just quitting?
I have a contract. The only way I get out of that is if I get fired. And that is what I intend to do. I know you are familiar with minstrel shows, variety shows, like in Living Color.
Right. That was dope.
Man Tan, the new millennium minstrel show. We're gonna need a little more money for this.
This could be bigger than Friends, Ally McBeal, even my boys Amos and Andy.
Damn.
You're putting white actors in blackface?
We're using black actors with blacker faces.
This fall.
Right on, man.
Yeah, great show.
You won't believe what's coming to your television.
Sleep and Eat and Mantan are lazy and unemployed.
Do your stuff.
But we are certainly not saying anything about the entire African American community.
What's sweeping the nation. And what's coloring the way you see the world.
Yo, we can't let this injustice go by, man. Not this time, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You notice that everybody white want to be black.
How about raising up?
They all act better, sound better.
When are you going to come into the light?
The light.
The light.
Your hands are just as bloody as mine.
Cousins, I want you all to go to your windows. We talking about revolution. Go to your windows and yell out, I am not gonna take it anymore!
I don't want anything to do with anything black for at least a week.
Alrighty. 2000, the year 2000, Spike Lee directed Bamboozled, starring Damon Wayans, Blank Man himself. Apparently they thought Blank Man would make a good dramatic lead. Savion Glover, Jada Pinkett Smith, Michael Rappaport, Tommy Davidson, Thomas Jefferson Bird, Paul Mooney, some other faces you will recognize too. MC Search shows up, DJ Scratch, Mos Def, Charlie Baltimore. I mean, all these different faces show up that you're going to recognize. So, I think first and foremost, before we get too much into the review of this movie, we don't talk a lot of Spike Lee on the show. I know we talked about his. We talked about Black Klansman because it was on my end of year list a couple years ago. We've probably talked about Old Boy. I know Do the Right Thing has come up a number of times over the years. I'm not a Spike Lee fan.
I don't like him. I don't.
I wasn't going to go that far, but I'm not a fan in general.
I don't have anything against him. Well, maybe personally, there's some things that I don't like that he says, but I don't. This show is a testament to us giving filmmakers a chance, and this is not even it's not even the second film he's made, and he decides to go with handheld DV cams, and there's so many bad choices. But I feel like Do the Right Thing was his District 9, and then
yeah.
After that, he's like, I have a voice. This is fine. This is not fine. This is great that he realizes he's in a position where he can say something. I think he doesn't know how to say it.
So, I mean, Oh man, we gotta kind of tread lightly here. I think it's.
Do we?
It's,
if we talk about the movie, we don't have to tread
I think
lightly.
if you look at Spike Lee's work as a whole, it's super inconsistent. Like it's super inconsistent.
Oh,
like,
let's just cut the shit here. He's made like 3 good movies.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it.
I mean, he did a lot of music videos when he started.
Yeah, he did.
But
he did.
School Days is fine. Is fine. Did a bunch of music videos in between. But Do the Right Thing was like really kind of the film. And honestly, like the story he was telling in that of the racial unrest in inner city New York, that hit really well.
Yeah,
because it's small. It's presented in. I mean, the issue was not small.
Right.
But the way that he presents it in that is confined to like within one small neighborhood, some specific places, specific people, and it's illustrated really, really well.
But it's general enough that it's an Asian-owned convenience store. It's an Italian pizzeria. That's every neighborhood. So it's you are able to say, hey, I've experienced that. Yeah. This one, however.
Yeah, and it's a well-written film. Do the Right Thing is a well-written film.
Yeah.
Bamboozled is like, for me, watching it's like the exact opposite. I think it's a poorly written, overwritten film, which is trying to do 150 things all at once while not presenting any of those 150 things in a well-lit, I don't mean like an actually like lighting, but like in a well-lit, flushed-out way.
Yeah.
I 100% understand what Spike Lee is going for in this. I understand the idea of white America, and the culture appropriation that's being taken by white America. Whether it's white rappers or just like clothing culture, or however he wants to present it. And he's showing that like it's always taken to the extreme. Which is completely fine, and I get that, and I understand that, and I think the timing of this in 2000 was probably almost maybe a little bit of ahead of that really kind of breaking point. Like, if you were to make this movie now, it's a very different story. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
All of the same, pillars are there, and the building blocks are there, but this film almost feels in this weird sort of way that's like, with it trying to do so much, it actually doesn't help anything.
Yeah, my biggest issue story-wise is that it's initially brought out as we're going to do something that no one has seen. It's almost like they are going to take and own, as African Americans, the minstrel show and take it away from the white people that did it. And that's great. That's fine. But really what it turns into is Wayans' contract doesn't allow him to quit, so he's going to create the most offensive show he could possibly think of and get fired, which is sort of pretty much exactly the plot of The Producers. So that was one point where I'm like, all right, so you're just doing The Producers. I get it. You want to know the part where I was said, fuck this movie and fuck you, Spike Lee?
Sure.
There's a point where they're talking about Malcolm X, and the footage they show is not Malcolm X.
It was his.
It's Spike Lee's Malcolm X. It was Denzel Washington, and I'm like, fuck you. Okay? Fuck you. Yes, you made a movie based on Malcolm X's, experiences in life. Denzel Washington is not Malcolm X.
Right, and I also, if I'm not mistaken, he took a lot of liberties with the Malcolm X story, too, if I'm not mistaken.
I watched that entire movie, and what I got out of it was you could have told Malcolm X anything, and if you were convincing enough, he would have followed you. In Spike Lee's movie, he came off as a follower. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, the story so the synopsis of Bamboozled is actually quite simple. You have Damon Wayans, who plays Pierre Delacroix, who is a TV producer. Michael Rappaport is the studio head. He needs better ratings or everyone's going to get fired. So Damon Wayans decides that he's going to make the most offensive, most African-American, most offensive thing that he can to get himself out of his contract. And it ends up backfiring on him because it ends up becoming this big, huge hit.
Yeah, Springtime for Hitler. Yeah, it's the producers, yeah. Oh.
It is the producers. I didn't really even put that together until you said that, but it is the producer. He just basically remade the producers with an African-American twist.
The other biggest issue that I have with this is the directorial choices, Wayans' accent. What the fuck? What? Why? I get that Delacroix is code switching, but he never switches out of that language of the way he's speaking. We go and we meet his parents, and they are not, dickheads. They don't talk in that. That's not even an accent. He's talking like somebody that's trying to learn how to imitate an English accent, but can't figure it out.
Right. Well, the whole thing with his character is he's too black for the white people and he's too white for the black people. So he's trying to but it's presented in this way that just doesn't do anything either way. You know what I mean? He's a caricature, and I get that he's supposed to be a character, and I know this film is supposed to be satire, but the issue is the satire, which is one of the few things that work in the front 45, because this is a long movie too. This is 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Yeah.
The front 45 minutes or so, the satire is strong. It's biting. He takes some self-deprecating shots at himself. They bring up a number of things that are referenced. They bring up Mos Def, and then Mos Def shows up. They bring up In Living Color again. It's got Damon Wayans is there, and Tommy Davidson is there. And they basically, they send up themselves. But the problem is, come the second half of this movie, all of that satire just goes away.
Yeah.
And it's just this morality piece that they're just now shoving down your throat. And that's, I think, my biggest issue with a lot of Spike Lee's stuff. In that, I get it, man. I get, you feel you feel you need to show the repression of African Americans in this country, which absolutely you need to show that. But he's just so heavy-handed in the way that he shoves it down your throat. You can't help but kind of push back on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing that worked in Black Klansman is that he's not necessarily hitting you over the head with a hammer. Like he does in so many of his movies. I don't know if you ever watched Jungle Fever, but it was just my God, yes, I get it. People don't want these people together. I didn't either.
It's not. I mean, let's be fair. This is not a movie intended for me.
No, absolutely not.
So,
no, absolutely not. I agree with you there. And he really wants to portray, white America as everybody is a fool, everybody is ignorant, people don't understand what they're supposed to like and what they're not supposed to like. Everybody's the same. Everyone's outlook on, Black America is it's looked at as a joke, and I'm that's. I mean,
I'll be fair about this though. TV executives, I think, will follow what is popular, and since this was thrown in front of them and it's popular, they're going to go with it. They all want to keep their jobs, right? So
yeah,
it's when it gets to the audience and their appreciation of the minstrel show,
right.
Where
when they first run it, and the crowd doesn't know how to respond because they're like, this is ridiculous. This is the language being used, the way it's being presented, the songs being sang. It's it is if you look at it, it's extremely racist, but it's being presented by African Americans, so they don't know how to react. And then when some of the African Americans in the audience, start to react positively to it, then you see they and Spike Lee does a really good job actually in this part where he starts to show the white people in the audience they're not okay with it until the African Americans in the audience are okay with it, and then okay, well he's laughing at it, she's laughing at it, so I can laugh at it now too. And there's a really great scene in the front half when Michael Rappaport and Damon Wayans are in the office together, and Michael Rappaport is dropping N-bombs left and right, and he does that such a white guy thing of like, no, I can use that word because I'm married to a black woman and I have 2 biracial children.
Yeah.
And Damon Wayans just looks at him and goes, yeah, but I don't want you to use that word in front of me. And Rappaport just kind of blows it off like, oh, no, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I know. It's like, but outside of those couple moments, I'm going to be honest, I really don't like this movie. I really don't like it. I think it loses itself halfway through and never gets back to where he's trying to what he's trying to accomplish. And as polarizing a figure as Spike Lee is, like I understand that he is fearless in the way that he presents things. I'm not going to go out there and say that he's a really gifted director or anything like that, but he's definitely fearless. But I just don't understand how someone that is so passionate about this could have a film that is utterly really boring in the second half of it and then just confusing because you're just hammering everything in so hard that nothing makes sense.
Yeah, it's almost like as the film was being made, the characters' performances showed him different aspects that he could focus on, and he focused on all of them.
Right.
I like Michael Rappaport as a person. I like reading his stuff on Twitter. I like, his general opinion of the world.
I liked his documentary he did on Tribe Called Quest.
He's a fucking terrible actor.
He's not a good actor.
That accent does not lend himself to head of a network. It just...
But I think that is done purposely. That's a Spike Lee decision to make him seem like the clueless oaf. But since he's the white guy, he has the power role.
But he's also I don't know. Something just doesn't sit right because no one gets that far being that unconservative, I guess is a good way to put it. Because I can't think of the opposite. Because liberal doesn't really work for when you're making, when you're making TV. No one would take a chance that big. He would have been fired. But, and this is the part where I don't.
Well, again, it's satire.
But this is the part where I think if you're going to make a movie based in real life about how real people are going to react to a minstrel show on TV with the N-word being thrown around, first of all, standards and practices would have been all over your fucking ass for the N-word. And it never would have made it to air. Never. I don't think any of that stuff would have made it past censors.
No, you're 100% right. But again, it's supposed to be satire, and it's that whole pushing the envelope
I
thing.
get that it's supposed to be satire, but someone in this movie should have had common sense that was able to say, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't believe that Jada Smith is the one to have the common sense at any point. So,
no, you're not. Well, you're not wrong. All right. Well,
she was also she might play an emotional role well, like an angry, standing up for themselves kind of person. But I just didn't believe her in this. Everybody, it felt like they didn't rehearse with each other. It felt like they were running lines when they were actually recording. I think that's what it comes down to.
Everything felt very stunted. But all right, then. Well, do you recommend, and what is your grade for Spike Lee's Bamboozled?
No, I'm not going to recommend this. I honestly think that we can completely forget about this movie because we've moved on, and there are better people telling more coherent stories about the black experience. I think Spike Lee, at this point, has been too far removed. Courtside seats and all that, TV ads, it's going to kind of skew your viewpoint of the average person, isn't it?
Yep.
So I think like every good director that starts off strong and has a good social message, you can't go this specific because guess what? Nobody gives a shit about the world you operate in. Only you do. Spike. I don't care what goes on. It's the finished product. It's all of that. And I did appreciate Tarantino says it all the time, or he said it was fine, because we all knew that was a stupid bullshit reason back in the day too.
Agreed.
I don't know. Everything about this sat really wrong. But if I'm gonna give this a grade, I'm gonna give it a grade based off of Damon Wayans' accent. Fuck, that was awful. Absolutely awful. Sorry to Bother You did it way better. And I know it came after, and I know it's totally different, but I would love to fail it because Spike Lee used a clip from his own movie instead of a historical piece of tape. A D-.
Okay.
I
also
really,
not going
really
to
did
recommend
not
it.
like this.
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend it either. It looks, I mean, I get it, filmed in the late 90s, but it looks like shit.
Yeah.
It looks like shit.
It looks like 28 Days Later.
28 Days Later looks better because it leans into the fact that it's not glossy. This is supposed to be,
I mean the look of it is, it's the same DV.
Oh yeah. But it's just not. I mean, it's just the story's overwritten, and I completely understand what he's trying to do here, and I appreciate what he's trying to do here. But it's like, I think maybe I definitely saw this closer to when it was released back probably early 2000s. I hadn't watched it again since then. But just in the years since 2000 when this was released, how many really, really good stories we've had told about, the white America, holding down the African Americans and how it's all, changed through the years, or it hasn't changed, however you want to look at it. I mean, if you watch something like Get Out, like Jordan Peele's Get Out,
yeah,
and how he is showing that and how he is illustrating it, like, regardless of what you feel about that film, there's no question what he's trying to tell you or trying to show you, and he's not really hitting. He's got a small hammer that he's hitting you with. He doesn't have the sledgehammer over the head. He's got the ballpoint hammer, and he's hitting you in the knees.
But he's hitting a broader subject about how white people only like black people if they're exceptional at something. And that's what they want all the black people for, is for their exceptional abilities.
Right.
And that's relatable in a weird way, more than a guy wants to make a TV show to offend people.
Right. Just because in the 2022 climate, it just seems so ridiculous that you would ever even think that this was a thing that could actually happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it as a film wholly, just from the way that it looks, the way that it was shot, the way that it's written, it's not good.
No.
It's not good. So.
And then I'll stop talking. My final thought is, I think he made a huge mistake using all of the images of blackface collectibles from the 1800s and the early 1900s.
The little figurines and stuff.
Yeah, all of that, all the cartoons, all of the stuff that used images of blackface was put at the end of the movie with this sad music over it. And it's we already know minstrel shows were bad. We get it. We see the racism. Maybe you should have put this at the beginning of the movie to contextualize this for the audience, so you could see that black people were dehumanized the entire time, and now this black guy wants to bring it back as comedy. That may have been more effective.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So my grade, though, D-. Knowing that I've seen a large chunk of, I haven't seen everything he's done, but I've seen a large chunk of Spike Lee stuff, and the stuff that's bad. This is bad. It's not Old Boy bad, but
Old Boy never.
It makes me so confused. It makes me so confused when you see Do the Right Thing, which is just a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And I think Black Klansman is like that too. I think Black Klansman was excellent. So it just confuses me to be like, which Spike Lee is going to show up for this movie?
Yeah.
Like, which one? Well, the one that is the director that everyone says he is, or the one that's just kind of mailing it in and being like, you have to like it because I'm speaking about racial inequality.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what the impetus for this was. Was it the fact that he was watching a bunch of shows and movies with black families that integrated into white neighborhoods, or was it something else? Because there's a lot of shit thrown on the Cosbys and stuff in this.
I was going to say, yeah, he brings up the Huxtable name many, many times. Many times. And then, he talks about the Jeffersons. He talks about Sanford and Son. And
see, now I always held those shows up as examples of, they're not all Huggy Bear from fucking Starsky and Hutch or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Every human is just like us. We all want the same things: family, a little bit of peace, a roof over our heads, and an education. And Bill Cosby notwithstanding, I think, that show did show. Oh, Michael Rappaport was in that show too. But that did show a lot of people like, hey, everybody's just everybody. We're all cool with each other. So I don't know. Maybe like Family Matters did help. Maybe Cosby Show did help. I don't know. I would like a disclaimer in front of his movies about what pissed him off and why he made this movie. It would help. It would really inform, my entry into.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. All right, well, we got to move on. Let's move on to Butterfly Kisses 2018. This was Shane's other pick for this week. Let's take a listen to the trailer, all right?
Behind me stands Ilchester Tunnel, a throughway for the B&O Railroad for over a century. But for the past 80 years, it has become something far more sinister.
And the very first one that I pick up says, final solution. A young lady identifies herself as Sophia Crane, and then it got a little upsetting after that. Got a little bit weird. There's no cuts. There's no retakes. There's no calling for action. There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that somebody is directing them.
We have the possibility that this whole thing is real. And we have the possibility this whole thing is a largely plausible hoax.
If you're working with all these elements, you can, journalistically speaking, you can construct your own story out of whatever footage you choose to put in there.
I do not believe that this video is authentic.
I think there's some acting involved, there's some effects involved. And I think that it's kind of disturbing that he feels that the only way to market this footage is to pretend it's real.
This has been done 1,000 times before, and we think it's a scam. I'm not the only one, it's everyone. We're gonna take this footage to every professional in town that we can find. Ghost hunters, mythbusters. We're going to go to the radio stations. We're going to the TV stations. We're going to show the footage, and we're gonna saturate the market with this information. Then we're going to prove to the world that Peeping Tom exists. The camera doesn't lie.
All right. Whoa, stop. All right, Butterfly Kisses. 2018, directed by Eric Christoph Myers, written by Eric Christoph Myers, tells the story of a filmmaker named Gavin York who discovers a box of videotapes depicting two students who are creating a senior thesis film about a disturbing local horror urban legend known as the Peeping Tom. Worst name for whatever this thing is supposed to be. Peeping Tom sounds stupid.
That's true.
So basically he sets out to prove that the story is real, edit the footage together, and release it as a work of his own. In the process, he comes across many speed bumps in the road, and he also has brought in a documentary crew to film him doing this. We don't know whether he reached out to them first or whether they came across him or how it kind of worked together, because we just kind of are dropped directly into it. Nobody in this movie you're going to recognize. Rachel Armiger, Reed DeLeese, Matt Lake, Ashley Coffett, and Seth Adam Kallick plays Gavin York. So I watched this not that long ago, actually. I think when we were watching a bunch of different found footage ones, I kind of came across it and watched it. It's interesting because it is a faux documentary about a found footage film.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
right?
it adds another layer. It adds another layer, which is not normally seen. Yeah.
Right. The film itself, it's very self-aware. It knows what it is and knows what they're trying to do. Basically, the footage that he finds has these two college students, Sophia and Feldman. Sophia is directing. Feldman is the cameraman. The local urban legend basically says that if you go to this train tunnel at midnight and you just stare down the tunnel without blinking for an hour, which again is that I don't even know if that's possible.
No, probably not.
But regardless, suspend some belief there. You stare down this tunnel to the end of the tunnel, and if you do it for an hour at midnight to 1 a.m., Peeping Tom will appear at the end of the tunnel, and then he will follow you until he kills you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the world record for staring, not blinking once, was in 2015.
Okay.
57 minutes and 24 seconds.
All right.
That's a long time.
I can't even imagine what your eyes would feel like by then, because they bring in the guy that's supposed to be the champion staring contest guy, and he only gets 12 minutes in.
Yeah, which is impressive. Still,
I don't even think I can keep my eyes open for a minute.
I used to be able to, but now, no, I don't.
My contact lenses get dry so fast, dude.
Yep,
so fast.
Well, I was watching this with the kids, and I'm like, I wonder if you could wear swim goggles filled with water. Do you have to be focused, or do you just have to not blink?
Well, I think you need to be able to see the
I don't
end of
know.
the tunnel.
It just says stare into the tunnel.
Yeah. So anyway, this dude Gavin York, he wants to edit the footage together and create a film out of it. But the issue that he's running into is that he can't verify anything, or he says that he can't verify anything. There's no record of a Sophia Crane or a Feldman or the teacher that they go to see at the university that they believe they attend. As far as he can tell, none of these people exist.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that's kind of weird is he says, when he finds the box of the tapes underneath a furnace at his parent-in-law, his wife's parents' house. They don't give you a lot of information in this either. They don't give you how long they had owned that house, what if they'd been there for a while, or
also if
the
the box was left there, wouldn't that have made them the previous tenants? So wouldn't there be a record
you would think
of them?
So.
I didn't
you would think
of
so.
that at the time.
So as the film kind of progresses itself, York is basically he goes to a local ghost hunters, and then he goes to a radio station, and then he goes to an audio expert, and then he goes to a video expert, trying to basically get anyone that he possibly can to verify and authenticate that this footage he has is real. Every single person he talks to is basically no, man, I think it's bullshit.
Which I loved.
Yeah, it's great because
that's the answer.
He unravels. Yeah, because it's not
real.
real.
Yeah, he unravels, but yeah, it's bullshit. It's
bullshit.
Yeah.
So he basically, and every time he gets, and the thing is, he's such a fucking dick.
He is.
He's such a dick.
He's got the best look, though. He's got that, and I'm not making fun of people, but for somebody to be a filmmaker dick, a fully buttoned up flannel pattern shirt. What is that? The Scully caps? Scally
his
was
cap.
Brown. It was tan. He has that close cropped, sculpted beard. And this
super sculpted beard.
Air of arrogance that is just breathtaking. He is perfect as a too big for his britches independent filmmaker.
Well, and it's funny too because they keep he's I went to school for film, but he's a wedding photographer,
Yeah.
or a wedding videographer. So like, he keeps talking about himself as a filmmaker, and there was a point where somebody was like, "Well, what have you made?" And he's like, "Oh, well, like."
Yeah.
As a guy that is technically a filmmaker, I don't even like saying that to people. Like people are like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I say I do video production.
Yeah, well,
And my wife
that's
gets
a
mad
lot
at me.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife gets mad at me. She's like, "Why don't you tell people you're a filmmaker?" I'm like, "I don't know. It feels pretentious to say that." But she's like, "You are though," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like, I don't know. I do video production too."
Yeah. It's like
I know that guy. Like I've met
Yeah.
this dude. Like I know this dude. I've met this dude at film festivals.
The thing
I've met
is,
this dude. Like
I don't go to nearly as much as you, and I've met this guy. I think I'm friends with him on Facebook.
oh, how many of these dudes would we meet at Rock and Shock?
Yeah. And I'm not saying they're
Everybody was peddling
bad
something.
people, but his drive,
No.
his
I'm saying
drive
they're
to
bad
make
people.
this individual movie made him an asshole. It was the
Well, and the
making
whole-
of
and-
the movie.
And the unable to accept that nobody is interested.
Yeah.
Like, and nobody believes him. And then, like, they're like, well, you haven't given us any reason to believe you. And that's, I think, one of the strong points of the story in this is that he is so like, no, why don't you believe me? Like, well, you haven't given me a reason to believe you. You haven't even shown me anything, and then a couple little things come up in terms of like, oh, well, we found this little soundbite here, and which is interesting.
Yeah.
But like, there's this incredible scene where they kind of set him up towards the end of it, where he goes, they get him an interview with the local radio station, and the guy that's the DJ at the radio station is like, "Listen, this guy's bullshit. I don't want anything to do with this dude." And they're like, "Listen, man," they're like, "Can you cut us some slack? Can you just put him on the air and like do something to like help here?" And so they get Eduardo Sanchez, who directed the Blair Witch Project.
I had to look it
call
up
in.
just to make sure, and that really was him.
Oh yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
It was him.
Yeah.
And he does not have a finely sculpted beard in his little interview footage.
Which is why he was fine.
Yeah, right. And like, there's this point where like, oh, this is Ed Sanchez, the director of the Blair Witch, and Gavin's like, "Oh my God, oh, worship, thank you so much, such a big fan, I love you so much, thank you so much for being here."
Yeah.
And then Eduardo's like, "Yeah, I think it's all bullshit."
Yeah, fuck you, kid.
And then he's like, "You know what, man? You don't know what you're talking about. You're a hack." Like,
Yeah, no, you can't do that. That's not how that works.
so it's funny because like, he's so, and he did the guy playing the part does a really good job, man, and like makes you believe.
Oh,
like,
he was perfect.
And then his wife leaves him.
Yeah.
His wife leaves him because we find out he's taken essentially their entire savings and the money that was set aside for their daughter to go to college and spent it on the movie.
Yeah.
And gotten nothing. And the thing too is like gotten nothing out of it.
Oh,
like, it's not even like, it's like nothing out of it. So without giving the ending away, because this is a fairly new film and you guys can stream it in the US on Tubi to watch, he essentially kind of starts to go off the deep end and things get no, and the thing, it's an oversell to say that things get crazy because they really don't. But this film is its own worst enemy at the same time, I think. Because the stuff that I loved about it, they would undo with like other things. Like there's a credit sequence which I like. Why is this here? Like, you didn't need to do this. You should have left everybody questioning what was going on.
Okay.
Rather than, and then also that mindset of, and I don't know if you've seen it or not. I think it's on Paramount Plus. There's a documentary called Forbidden Dimensions or something like that, and it's a 90-minute documentary about the Paranormal Activity film series.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it's quite good. It's done very well, and they go through the whole series. And Eduardo Sanchez actually shows up in that too. And they talk a lot about how making a found footage film is inherently, in many ways, more difficult than making a narrative film because you have to justify every single decision that you make.
Right.
Why is the camera here? Why are you still filming? Why is the camera not damaged? Like, you have to think about all those things.
Yep.
And in this, there's a number of points where I'm like, okay, so who is presenting this to us? Like, is it the documentary crew?
It has to be.
That is featured in. I mean, that's who you would think it is.
Yeah.
But then there's footage that's cut in, and you're like, well, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Because we are left with them questioning everything at the end of it. You know what I mean?
It could be intentional on the filmmaker's part to say, oh, look, there's more fingers in this than you even thought, because now there's more people involved that weren't featured in the film. I don't know.
Right. Well, and Eric Christopher Myers, the director, basically he's the head of the documentary crew in the film.
Oh, okay.
And also, bizarrely enough, he actually died last year.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Eric Christopher Myers, born on March 19th, 1976 in Hagerstown, Maryland. He was an editor and writer known for the film Roulette, Butterfly Kisses, and Split Personality. He died on September 15th, 2021 in Maryland. I don't know what happened or anything.
What was
but
his,
he's in
what
the
was
film
his
too.
full name again?
Eric with a K, Christopher with a K, Myers.
Okay.
But he, he stars in it too, and I believe he also edited it. If I'm not mistaken. But there are a few handful of decisions that are made that I'm just like, I don't know where this came from, especially the credit sequence. And if you've seen the film, you know what I talk about. But there was things that I loved about it too. I loved that they were like, well, we can't track down the teacher, and then when they tried to track down the Mr. Folklore guy, Matt Lake, they eventually track him down, and he's like, I don't know, they filmed it like 3 or 4 years ago. He's like, I don't even remember. And then when Gavin gets mad at him, and he's like, well, your book is stupid. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
He's very reactionary to it. It is actually a little bit of it's almost like how people react on dating apps. Hey,
as soon as you're wrong, you're like, yeah, whatever, you're ugly anyway.
Yeah, hey, I like you. Fuck off. Yeah, you suck my dick, you fat bitch.
Right.
There you go, Scott. You're welcome.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
He cannot take criticism, and it's no wonder his marriage fell apart because he can't fucking communicate. He's stunted as a human being. He really is just singularly focused on this one thing that he thinks is going to make him rich and doesn't have anything else to go with. And he's threw all his eggs in one basket, and his basket got in the car and drove away.
Right. Yeah, and there's the point too where he's asking the documentary crew if they can help him, and they're like, "Hey, we're not part of this. We're here to watch you and film you. We can't do it." And then they throw him the bone by getting the interview and stuff. But
right,
it just shows how desperate he is at that point.
Yeah.
So the film does a couple things with that though, whereas the idea of Peeping Tom within the film is not even a driving force. It's this weird character study of this guy Gavin.
Yep.
And whether he is seen, but then there's a point where we're like, well, maybe he's seen Peeping Tom also, and the idea that the camera saw him, and then this other, but the one thing I enjoyed this. And the second time I watched it, I picked up on a couple things I might have missed the first time I watched it. But there was a few things where I'm like, I like this, but I really would have liked a little bit deeper explanation into the folklore of the character of the Peeping Tom himself, because there isn't really much given at all. And in defense of the filmmakers, it didn't necessarily need to be there because that wasn't really what it's about.
Right.
But as you kind of dig deeper into it, although actually when they talk to the folklore guy, he says, they're like, well, why isn't it in your book? And he's like, because it's not really much of anything.
Right.
It's just like a story. He's like, there's not enough legs to it to justify putting it in the book.
Right.
So I guess maybe that kind of works. But either way,
yeah, I think it's better that everybody around him is like, this is nothing. This is a school project that could be a dramatization. It could be scripted.
Right. But when he starts to go overboard, you're kind of like, well, I personally was like, he seems to be going really deep really quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's probably more to this that we're not being given, which is fine.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like it's a little too much, a little too quickly.
If it had dates, if it had a date range, even if it was just 6 months later, then you would know he's been focused on this the whole time, but the documentary crew hasn't.
I agree. Anyway. Sorry, finish your thought.
I was going to say, I think the best use of a documentary crew in a found footage movie so far is the dudes from Long Pigs.
Yeah, I agree. Well, okay, Chris, do you recommend, and what is your grade for Butterfly Kisses?
I am going to recommend this, and not because I feel bad that the director died. but because I think that this does, this is going to sound really shitty and racist of me. Ready? This does what Bamboozled wanted to do, which was to take a trope and turn it on its head. And this took a student film, which if it was Grave Encounters, they just would have edited her footage together and just put it out. But this guy is saying something about documentaries, about how I believe, and it's the point that kills the both of us when the documentarian becomes the subject and they don't want to let that spotlight go. I think that's really what this is about. And I love that.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I like that.
So for creativity and ingenuity, it gets good marks because it's a good idea. I like the idea. The acting is a bunch of I don't want to say newcomers, but amateurs, pros now, I guess, if they were paid. But you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go with a B.
Okay.
Mostly because I like what he was trying to say. I think it was an interesting thing that he was trying to say.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm with you, man. I enjoyed this. I did. I liked it. And I thought the shortcomings that it had were not too much to kind of take it off the rails. So I am going to recommend it. I think it's pretty good. We've watched, and especially because we've watched some really, really bad found footage movies the last year or so. This is not one of them.
No.
Does it have its issues? Yes. Is it perfect? Is it a Grave Encounters? Is it a Long Pigs? Is it a Paranormal Activity or a Blair Witch? No, it's not.
Right.
But it's a very solid entry. Very solid entry, I think. And one of the better, more recent ones that we've watched. So, I'm going to go C+. I'm going to go C+, because it's good. It's not great, but I could see why somebody would really love this, and I could also see why somebody would be like, yeah, this is stupid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
All right. Joe is back. What are we on? From Dusk Till Dawn 4?
Oh, shit. I have
3?
no idea anymore.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris. And hello, OTC Nation. It's your boy Joe here, and this week Bill is making me explore the later works of a once great director who by this point had just kind of given up. He made me watch John Carpenter's Vampires.
Oh, yeah.
Here's my first thought. Depending on where the apostrophe is in the title, it either implies that John Carpenter is vampires, or that these vampires are the possession of John Carpenter.
Yes, that one.
The later summons images of John Carpenter taking the vampires for walks, picking up their little vampire poopies, or making cute TikTok videos where they get the vampire zoomies all around a room. All of which would be better to look at for 90 minutes than James Woods' stupid, smarmy face. Side note, Bill, I'm glad that you love when my cat Quark decides to chime in on my review. If you'll notice, he always waits until I'm at least halfway through to interject. But that's pretty on brand for him because he can't go 3 goddamn minutes without some kind of attention. I know I watched this movie when it first came to the video store, but I have absolutely no memory of it whatsoever. That's probably not a good sign. This was also one of the last 3 full-length films that Carpenter directed. I just looked it up, and if Carpenter isn't going to direct anything again, he had a pretty clumsy exit from the profession. Like, his last 3 films were this, John Carpenter's Vampires, Ghost of Mars, and some film called The Ward that I've never seen.
Didn't that
you have to
Amber
imagine
Heard in
that
it?
this film
That was
was
Halle
born
Berry,
out of
wasn't
the
it?
success of From Dusk
That's
Till Dawn.
Gothica.
It's got
I don't know.
really similar vibes. I'm surprised nobody sued over this. Everything is dusty, dry, and hot. The characters all speak in like testosterone-soaked gravel, while slow, sludgy southern rock plays. Which is hilarious when it comes out of the mouths of Daniel Baldwin trying his best in a drug-induced haze and all 140 pounds of James Woods. More unrealistic than vampires existing in this movie is Woods being a tough guy. Like, he's all denim and leather and growly machismo, while at the same time looking like he couldn't fight his way out of a retirement home. So James Woods leads a SWAT team of vampire hunters in, are you ready for this? The American Southwest. Huh. Despite being cast with familiar faces like Cary Tagawa and Mark Boone Jr., they're still like the flea market SWAT team. Like if vampire hunters came in that dollar store bin near the checkout lane of your city's third best grocery store. You know, the one that's barely hanging on. Kind of like I'm sure this DVD was after a few months on their release wall. Just toss it into the bargain bin. Nobody gives a fuck. They do the cool hook the audience in the first 5 minutes establishment and cool, like, clear out the nest of vampires montage. And then we're on to partying with booze and hookers. Because they do the Lord's work killing unholy creatures, they're allowed indulgences of sin. It's a nice little jab at the Catholic Church's long-standing tradition of rich people buying forgiveness, but the jab doesn't go nearly far enough and not hard enough. Turns out the OG vamp, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, is on a warpath and taking out all the teams of vampire hunters that the church has, like, all over the world. Vague backstory about how the Catholic Church was actually responsible for creating vampires. He was the first, and for some reason waited until the late 90s to actually do something about it. If anything I've said makes this movie sound interesting or fun for more than, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I mean, look, it's not my job to judge you, just keep that shit to yourself. The only survivors of the OG Vampires massacre of the team are James Woods and Daniel Baldwin. Great. I'd have fucked with this movie so much harder if the two obvious leaders of the team got turned into marinara sauce, and for the rest of the movie we just follow, like, 2 of the rando team members who don't even have names, as they just like, all right, well, I guess we're done with that, you know, I think my local factory's hiring, let's just go do that. This whole thing alternates between James Woods yelling at priests and being all betrayed, but still working for them for some reason, and Daniel Baldwin yelling at the hooker that got bit, and they saved her, and she's turning, but they're also using her to try and find the master vampire, and also Daniel Baldwin is a huge, tubby, you know, like, drug-addled weenie who's falling for the hooker. Boring movie short. The OG vamp Terry Silver takes time away from corrupting shitty kids in the San Fernando Valley to find the Black Cross, a Catholic artifact that will make him be able to walk in the sunlight. And you'd think that if your organization had an artifact like that they would do their best to fucking destroy it instead of displaying it prominently at a monastery in the American Southwest.
Yeah, where you can't secure those
Safety
Adobe
first,
windows.
Man, call OSHA. The main characters are so unbelievably unlikable that you find yourself either not caring if they win and saving humanity, or actively rooting for the bad guy. Because fuck these guys. I'll wrap this up better than the movie did. There's a big heel turn from the church, what do they call them? Cardinals, the guys who are above the priests but below the Pope, because he wants to live forever too. Everybody talks too much, and they also talk to each other like this is all par for the course, and they're just working out some logistical problems instead of continuing the eternal struggle between good and evil. It's all very casual. They reach a conclusion and then keep the movie going for 10 more fucking minutes. Here's the thing. The good. Without John Carpenter's touches here, even if he probably was only a little bit interested in this movie, it would have sucked harder than Joanna Angel.
Ooh.
The bad. Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to have James Woods play a macho action hero? That would be like if you cast me to play Andre the Giant in a biopic. John Carpenter gets a B+. I almost always like his stuff. His vampires, however, get a C- because they fucking suck. I'll be living on a prayer next week as we finally see some Jersey represent with Bon Jovi in Vampires, Los Muertos. I swear to a God I don't believe in, if they made a third one of these, I am fucking quitting. Until then, be good, everyone.
I have to admit that John Carpenter's Vampires is a definite guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah, it was fun the first time I saw it, and the second and third, but it's yeah. The thing is, in the book, which I read, they do their excessive stuff after they clear out a hive, because the whole thought process is we're going to die the next time we go out. So they're living their lives to the fullest, to the excess that they believe they deserve, because they are going on basically suicide missions.
Right.
And that was all right.
Yep.
And the book actually hinted at werewolves, and there's a whole other group, organization to hunt werewolves that aren't the vampire guys. I like that idea.
That's kind of cool.
But vampires on the cover is spelled with a $. They get paid handsomely to do this. So,
makes sense.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea. Recruiting vampire killers. I like that.
Speaking of recruiting vampire killers, here's Reverend Scott's Holy Shit segment.
What?
Does it even matter how I start my segment?
You can do this really well, or you can do it half-ass, or you can just not give a shit.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. With Reverend Scott. We'll go up to Saratoga Springs and we'll ride the steeplechase.
What? I don't remember what you were talking about.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott.
You're finally somebody I don't feel bad about killing.
What?
What?
And I'm here today to give some final thoughts about Obi-Wan Kenobi after finishing the whole season. Did it improve? Did it get worse? I guess you'll have to wait and find out, because I wanted to first talk about some Patreon picks you reviewed last week. And by order of release, first comes The Most Dangerous Game. Tell us more about it, Bill.
I've got a pencil mustache and a cask full of vodka.
Oh,
he's like,
right.
well, I play the piano and I hunt the most dangerous game. And the guy's like, these two things don't go. We should go on a boat ride together. Is there a point where he's like, you can come to my house in the Hamptons and we'll ride horses? What are you talking about?
That's great. So anyway, if you've seen the Ice-T movie Surviving the Game, you've basically seen this. Except Ice-T must have turned this version down because he's not even in it. I also heard that there was a book or something. Tell us about that.
Have you ever heard the story? The story this is based on?
I don't know if I have.
I feel like I have, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Cool story. So as far as the review went, Bill and Chris didn't seem like they wanted to really talk about the plot at all.
If you don't know the story of Most Dangerous Game at this point, then I don't think it's going to matter.
If you don't know, eat a bowl of shit.
I guess Bill and Chris did mention the guy that owned the island and how he was fair and just and made sure it wasn't like an execution. You know what I mean? It's just like the Most Dangerous Game that Bill runs himself on his own private island. It's not really hunting.
No, this is just a game. Like, I provide them with, I give them a knife, I give them hunting clothes, I give them a head start. They're given every opportunity to escape.
Well, for your sake, I hope the FBI isn't listening right now.
It's fine. It's fine.
He's rich. He can do whatever he wants.
Boy, that sounds like it deserves an A- to me. And I give the review an A- as well. The Most Dangerous A-. And now we can move on to Vicious Fun. Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about that movie?
Oh, yeah, it's murder.
Now, I haven't seen this one yet, but it sounds pretty interesting. I like when they kind of study what it would be like to fill a room full of my peers, full of crazy murderers, and see how they'd interact in a normal-for-them conversation. And some writer decided it would be good to go in there and flesh out his new book ideas on these killers, like totally unprotected and in person.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't understand what your concern is.
That's one of those premises that's enough for me to want to watch this movie, kind of like The Purge. That's all you had to say. I'm in. But I haven't seen it yet, so I give it a B+. And the review gets a B. Tough shit, the movie I haven't seen yet was better. So back to what I've been watching, which was more of your boy Disney Plus and the final 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, last time on Holy Shit, I was talking about how the first 3 episodes were just a long Star Wars chase scene devoid of character development or much feeling. And I still kind of stand by that. But what was old Ben Kenobi up to since then?
He's done some stuff. He's done some stuff and some things.
Well, episode 4 kind of felt like the same thing again to me, except for they went to the bad guys instead of the bad guys coming to them. Not a lot of overall development besides finding out that Obi-Wan can hide a 10-year-old under his trench coat.
What?
Then episode 5 kind of started nonsensical with Obi-Wan and his crew trying to leave the hangar in their ship, but the Empire sabotaged the hangar door from opening to trap them inside. But at the same time, the Empire is blasting a different set of doors to the hangar trying to get in. So if they want to get in, why don't they just let them open up the hangar door and shoot them down? I don't know.
You know I hate you, right?
Yeah.
But then something happened at the end of episode 5 that I won't spoil, but one primary character's true intentions become clear, and it shed a whole new light on their motivations. It was finally that thing I'd been waiting and hoping to see in the show. Not to mention Vader is shown later to be absolutely fucking ridiculous and more badass than he's ever been, Rogue One included. The kind of power that you really expect from Vader. Plus, another main character faces some permanent consequences, something that hadn't really happened up until that point either. The final episode wraps things up mostly, but it still kind of felt a little dragged out to me. We get some more character development, which was nice, but overall it kind of fell flat for me. And here's my main issue. What we saw would have been better suited to a more concise 2 to 3 hour movie than a 6-episode series, in my opinion. Either that or a 10-episode season that was even more fleshed out and took it even further than this season goes. At least that's how it feels. I don't know the right answer.
Here's the answer to this. Ban it.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Burn it.
Yeah.
Burn it to the ground.
Overall, I give season 1 a C, and I put it on par with the Book of Boba Fett for me. It's certainly no Mandalorian, but then again, what is? Okay, that's it for this week, but make sure you tune in next week to Outside the Cinema when Bill and Chris get super duper mega excited for my next segment.
That's good. That's good.
Cool.
And then Chris discusses if my Phil Collins obsession makes me a weirdo, or if Bill's obsession with the band Fear Factory makes him a weirdo.
Yes, you can both be the weirdos. That's possible.
All that and so many more weirdos. But until then, peace and love, guys.
Now listen here, you. You're on deep. Real deep. You give him a knife and you shoot him with a gun. Who do you think you are?
Holy shit with Reverend Scott.
Oh shit, this is not fun.
And with that said, I think we're done then, right?
Sure.
All right, I want to thank Shane for being a Patreon member. You can also become a Patreon member. Oh, we have a new Patreon member. Patreon member? Patreon member. Said it a few times there. We have a new one. Yeah, we have someone that just signed up.
Good. Very good.
That's not the right email. Here we go. Okay. I want to send out our shout out to James. We'll just say James. I don't want to give up his last name. James just signed up for the Patreon. And you can too if you go to patreon.com/outsidethecinema. So James, send us some movie picks. I'm not sure what we're doing next week, but it'll be more Patreon picks. Right?
Yep.
All right, cool. I think we're good.
Okay.
Talk to everybody next week,
Yeah,
all right?
sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.